Welcome, everyone. This is Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Rearden, and I will be your mindset coach today. And today we're going to be talking about relationships. And today I'm going to be bringing on a relationship coach. We're going to be talking about marriage specifically and a little bit about relationships because most relationships end in marriage. I'm not saying that just because you have a relationship, you're going to get married to the individual that you're with, but the aspect of a relationship is longevity. Most people are not in situationships where, I'm in a current situation. Now, I understand in the young culture and the young mindsets right now, they have a very different way of looking at relationships. Relationships are temporary. Relationships are going to be for a moment until I'm ready to settle down. And this episode is going to be giving you the foundation and the structure of what a relationship truly is, because I talk about it in the interview with my guest, Cristie. We are trying to figure out, if this is the mindset, what is the fix? And the mindset is literally, I'm young. I want to experience life. I want to live my life unfiltered from being restricted because most people feel marriage is restrictive. So they decide to wait. Is waiting the best option? Should you live your life and then have a marriage and family and relationships later? Or should that be a foundation for you building yourself up and having the best life possible? We talk about all of that in today's interview with my guest, Cristie, and you're not going to want to miss it. Welcome, Cristie Cerniglia to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing well. I butchered your last name before this. This is not going to be on the edit, of course, but I'd like to let people know that I'm a man that makes mistakes. But today we're going to be talking about your work. You are a relationship coach. We're going to be getting into ins and outs of relationships, the good, the bad, the ugly. Who knows what this conversation is going to bring? But in your own words, tell the world who you are, what you do, and how you help.
Oh, wonderful. I'm glad to be here, Michael. Thank you for having me. I'm Cristie Cerniglia. I live in Lexington, Kentucky with my husband. We've been married for 30 years in May. Miracle, right? And I'm only 35, in case you were wondering, but I have 4 kids and 2 grandkids. And what happened that kind of initiated all this for me is my parents' own divorce when I was a senior in high school. It was really terrible. It came as a big shock. And just really painful and difficult, and continues to be difficult. Since then, I've always had a passion for marriage and family. And so I love talking to women about their marriages, their family, and how they can thrive rather than just survive.
What's maybe the most common trend that you see, especially when you're speaking to a woman in your relationship coaching work, where they're in that survival aspect, that survival mode, that's in their mind that they can't get out of, and they need help from a relationship coach like yourself to get them out of that thinking?
Well, the place I always start with women is self-care, because so many women have been investing so much in their marriage and their family and their home and just making everything work that they've totally let themselves go, and they've totally forgotten what brings them joy or how to have fun and things like that. And it's real difficult for an unhappy person to have a happy relationship. So I want to start out by trying to help them just get happy, pay attention to themselves and do some things that they enjoy, no matter how small. Read a chapter of a fun book, sit in a hot bath, whatever floats it for you. Exercise, go for a walk.
The self-care aspect, especially when it comes to women, they have a very difficult time, I have found, separating their self-care versus the family self-care, because they feel obligated to take care of the family, to take care of their kids. Is that something that's just like a biological thing where they're just like thinking about, like, I have to be this nurturer because this is my role? Or is it more of what society says, this is your job, this is what you should be doing?
That's a really good question. And I'm sure there's pieces of both, but I do think that there are stereotypes, but then there are also real similarities between men and between women. And women, we just tend to dive in and try to take care of everything ourselves. And what ends up happening, sadly, is that we start getting full of resentment and bitterness. And this is a relationship killer, right? Because we start to think, why isn't he doing this? Why isn't he contributing here? Why isn't he? But at the same time, we just keep pushing to get it all done instead of admitting, I can't do it all. I am a mere mortal woman and I don't have enough to go around for everything and I need help. And I think that most husbands are really ready to hear that message. I need you. I need help. But what they're not ready to hear is the griping and the complaining, which is so many times what ends up coming out of my mouth and other women's mouths. Instead of that call for help that's vulnerable and attractive, it's that griping and complaining, which I didn't know I was doing. It's just a blind spot. And we have them. We have blind spots that we don't recognize in our own life. Once they were pointed out to me, oh, and once I was given another alternative in place of it, oh, now I get what I want so much of the time. Now I get help so much of the time because I know how to express my desires in a way that inspires instead of that complaining, which was really repelling my husband and my kids, my family. I thought I was a motivational speaker. Turns out I was just a big mouth complainer.
I find it so interesting how the way we grow up is going to influence who we become later on. If we have a strong family, that has influence to what we do later on in life. It doesn't guarantee it. It just has strong influence. And then certain situations in our life, like divorce, can turn us away from relationships or it can turn us on about relationships. Like what went wrong there? And we could start to dissect the issues, right? The bitterness, the nagging, right? The stonewalling, right? Whatever a person is subconsciously doing, they do it because essentially they were never truly taught about these aspects when they were young. They were never taught about relationships, maybe even love. And they just see things for either their own lens or what the world is showing them, right? Be it movies, books, things along those lines. They see the picture perfect, but a relationship is messy sometimes. It can be hard. It can be very difficult for people to get over their own understandings of what a relationship is and then saying, okay, this is what a relationship is. Because I'm sure you're aware, if something is broken today, people just throw it out and they get something new. They think the grass is greener on the other side. But before we get to that conversation, I want to talk about the onset, the foundation. How can an individual, if they have a kid, a teen, start to influence someone, whether it be male or female, doesn't necessarily matter, how to be in a prosperous, growing and flourishing relationship? Because if we just kind of let them be, we're going to have a lot of struggle.
Well, I love what you said about I've come up in this family with this background and these tendencies and things. And then I come together with my husband and he's come from his own family with his background and his tendencies and expectations, right? We both come with these expectations and it can be hard to blend those together. And I guess that's where communication is so important. But I also am a firm believer in I can blame certain things on my family of origin and I can walk in that. But at the same time, there's a point when I become an adult, right? And I have to make my own way and I have to be responsible and take accountability for who I am today. And do I want to stay the way I am today? Well, for me, I've always been someone who's interested in constant improvement. I want to read books. I want to know people who push me to a higher level. I want to do better today than I did yesterday. And I think that's another thing that led me into coaching. I love to stand for a woman who wants her marriage to work, but almost is to the point of hopeless. I can share my hope with her and help her to see this is not gone yet. There is still hope there. And that's one of my jobs as a coach is to say, I see this. Did you see this? She didn't see it because she was looking over here, right? And point out all those wins and all the ways I see her husband loving her, even if she can't see it. Do you know, I was missing a lot of the ways that my husband was loving me and I was not receiving them because I was blind. And I was so busy looking at what I didn't have or what I was unhappy with that I was missing all of this beautiful green grass, like you said, over here. And so once I shifted my focus, because what we focus on increases, right? And so once I shifted my focus, oh man, I began to just gather evidence, more evidence, more evidence of how much he loves me and wants to make me happy. And man, that changed the whole perspective. And I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Well, guess what? Here's the thing about coaching in session. I ask very vague questions. There's multiple paths that you can go down and answer it. And any answer you give is acceptable. Even if you say, you know what, I'm not going to answer your question, Michael. You know what? I'm going to ask a different question that's literally the same question, and I'm going to get an answer eventually. It's just going to take some time. But you did a great job at answering that question. And I believe accountability is going to be a huge proponent when we start to look at our relationships, because communication, as you said, is great, right? We need 90 minutes of communication at minimum a week. And most people they don't even get that. They think communication is, hey, how's your day? Oh, it's good. Okay, cool. Let's watch a movie, right? And they spend an hour together watching or scrolling to find a movie. And then they find a movie and then they finally watch it together. Not much communication went on there, meaningful communication. Because anyone can just say how you're doing, what do you want to eat? That doesn't necessarily create connectiveness. And for you, I wanted to get into the conversation of connecting with your spouse, with your husband, right? It could be any relationship, because sometimes we can feel disconnected, especially when it feels like we're not getting our way, when we're not being seen. How can someone begin to open up those communication channels and begin to make two one?
Well, my experience is that men need respect, right? They crave respect. And when they feel disrespected, they avoid and they separate. And so the women come to me so much of the time saying, he watches TV all the time, or he plays video games, or he's out with his friends playing golf, or he works late. Whatever it is, he's escaping, basically. And they have no idea why. Why doesn't he want to be with me? Right. And many times it can be because of disrespect. And just like me, I thought I was a respectful wife. I thought I respected my husband. But so many of the things that I was doing and saying were landing disrespectfully to him. And so I had to begin to understand what some of those things were. Some of them was the complaining, like I mentioned before. Some of it was controlling. One of the 6 intimacy skills that I teach is relinquishing inappropriate control. Recognizing that my husband is a full-grown man. Guess what? He got dressed and picked out his clothes every day, long before he met me. So I don't need to pick out his clothes. I don't need to tell him how to dress. I don't need to help him with his driving, right? Or show him where to park. I can show respect simply a lot of times by wearing some duct tape over this mouth, right? Sometimes it's just a matter of duct tape for me. Sometimes the best thing I can say is nothing at all. But sometimes I can use words like, whatever you think. And by saying that, I can just communicate to him that I think you're smart. I think you're capable. I trust you to make this decision. That was something that didn't used to come out of my mouth. I used to have something to say about everything. I had an opinion on everything. And now I don't have to anymore. It's very freeing.
That's like our ego, though, when we're young, when we're teenagers, and we can see our whole life ahead of us. It's just like, oh, I have to do this. I have to do that. I want this for myself. And it could be a bit daunting, especially if we don't have any guidance, mentorship, coaching. Kind of go down this path of what we feel is best for us. And then at some point, we start to ask ourselves, is this truly what I want? And what's happening a lot with younger individuals, both male and female, this is not specific to gender, but they're deciding not to get into long-term relationships at an early age. They want to be free. They want to explore and travel the world. They don't want to create anything. And later on in life, they say, I want to start a family then. And there's no wrong way to live life. Everyone gets to make their own choice. But I want to talk to you about the pros and the cons of starting a relationship early and then starting a relationship later.
That's so interesting. Well, I feel bad when we talk about that. I feel bad that we've given such a negative impression of marriage as a society that young people would view it as something to wait on and push off because I want to have fun before. I mean, what does that say about their view of marriage? It says that it's not fun, that it's boring, that it's somehow going to hold you back from fulfilling your dreams. When I think that the message that we should be sending is that, wow, I've just taken all the great pieces of myself and I've blended with all the great pieces of my husband. And now we can do twice as much as we could when we were on our own. And that's what I have found. I think if my husband was here, he would say that we bring out the best in each other and we are far more successful and fulfilled together than we would have ever been apart. We have 3 daughters and a son, and our oldest daughter got married at 19. She actually met her husband at 14. And they grew up together. And as soon as they graduated from high school, they got married. Now they're 23. They have 2 kids and another one on the way. And they are thriving in this young marriage and family situation. And it makes me so happy because I think, well, somewhere along the way, we must have done a good job of showing them the beauty of marriage because they wanted it for themselves. And I love that. I've seen that meme out before that's like, are you picturing marriage in such a way that your kids can't wait or that they can't wait to get away? So I want marriage to be seen as beautiful and a place where we can thrive as individuals and together, where we've doubled our efforts.
Marriage has been showboated for quite some time, right? It has become this elaborate thing where it's just like till death do us part, our elaborate $50,000 weddings. And it becomes a big deal. And when an individual does that, they start to look at themselves again. They see where their life is going because divorce typically doesn't happen because the 2 people fell out of love, right? It's typically happening because the 2 people stopped working toward the marriage together. Because it's not a one-way street or however you want to consider it. You both have a say in how the relationship is going to go. If one person is walking away and one person is trying to follow that person, there's always going to be that distance between each other. We have to walk toward each other. But yet, we all have our own views and our ideals when we step into a relationship. Do you find that there is ever a situation that someone conforms to the other person to make it work? Because they say opposites attract, but yet if you are opposites, you are going to have that negative factor also. Those relationships can be challenging, but they can also be relationships that work. What is your experience in that?
So interesting. Yeah, I think my experience is that opposites attract in the way that we complement one another, right? It seems like one partner is many times more outgoing and the other partner may be more reserved and different things like that, where they can complement one another. But I also think there are some core foundational things that are really nice if you kind of match up on those things. I loved what you said about the wedding versus the marriage. And maybe sometimes we've put more emphasis on the event of the wedding than we have thought about the long-term ramifications of marriage. But how can you prepare for a lifelong marriage? It's very hard. You're going to grow. Both of you are going to grow. And I think it's important that we grow together, which can be tricky as well. Yeah, it's nice to have folks around who are loving and supportive of that union. But listen, there are no 2 people on this earth that are going to live together in perfect harmony for all of eternity, right? And I tell my kids that all the time. I'm like, move in with your best friend. You guys will argue. People are different. We have different ideas. This is the way it should be done. No, this is the way it should be done. But we've got to give and take. Otherwise, but that's a family situation too, right? I just prefer to think there's nothing that's going to happen between my kids and I that's going to cause me to divorce them because I love them and they are mine and they are my family. I want to look at my marriage that way too. This is my partner for life. I'm not going to leave him. The things that attracted me to him are still there. All of the reasons that we got married are still there. They just maybe have gone dormant or gone missing for a minute, but we can dig them back out, right? We can get those things. And I can show up to my marriage in a way that draws the best out of my husband. And that's what I like to work with women on, because I work with women who may or may not have a husband who is involved in this reconciliation. They may be separated. He may be involved with another woman, but I am going to work with that woman to show up as her best self and draw him back, even if that's the case. And many times it works. In the times when it doesn't work, she has responded in a dignified way. She has grown her own character through the self-care and the other skills. And she is now in a much different place to move on if he chooses to end the marriage than she was before we met. So it feels like a win.
This is the opposite of what people like to talk about, because people love negativity, right? People always say, what are the red flags to look out for in a relationship? I don't want to do that today. I want to talk about the green flags, the go, like the green lights. Like, what should someone be looking for? Because believe it or not, in our world today, especially in our minds with the younger generation, they can't see the good because they have been wrapped around so much negativity for so long. Someone is kind to them, someone opens the door, someone is chivalrous. It's like, huh, that's weird. Versus the green light. What would be those, and what should a woman look out for when finding a potential suitor?
Well, and I think it's important too that women who are married look for other women who are going to support them in their marriage, because, and many times that's my job, because their friends have told them, their friends who love them have told them, oh, get away from him. Oh, leave him. Oh, kick him to the curb. You don't deserve that. You deserve better. And all of this because they love her and they care and they want to protect her. I understand. But my job is to come in and say, no, I believe you're married to a good man. I believe it because you chose him. And so I'm going to stand for your marriage. And you've got to have somebody that's willing to stand with you and say, I believe that you can make this thing work. Because again, there's a reason that you fell in love with him and that you chose to marry him. Green flags as far as dating, I would be looking for a man who was honest. I would look at the way he spends his money and how invests, spends, saves his money and what he does. Is he going to be easy for you to partner with? Or is he going to be difficult because his ideals and ideas are so different than yours? If you're a believer, is he a believer? Do your ideals as far as religion and the Lord, do they match up? Because that's core, that's foundational. We need to match up in those areas. Don't marry him hoping that he will change down the road and come around to your way of thinking. We don't have any power to change anybody else but ourselves. And so I would look for, those real foundational things. Is he hardworking? Does he like to go to work and he doesn't complain about it? Is he open to family? Does he like your family and they like him? Ladies, your mom should love the man that you bring home. If she doesn't, you need to have a question mark. Your mom loves you more than anybody. And if she has an uneasy feeling about him, you need to question that. If your girlfriends have an uneasy feeling, you need to question that. They love you. They care about you. They want the best for you.
You said something early on where women should support other women, and I 100% agree with that. But then there are going to be aspects of jealousy where maybe a woman sees your relationship and maybe you're going through a rough patch in your marriage relationship, right? And they just maybe say something along the lines of, just leave him, right? It's just not worth it. But they might have some resentment, jealousy, and maybe they just want you to be single like them. How can someone differentiate between people who want to help meaningfully and then people who are just kind of those negative Nancys in their life?
Yeah, we've got some Debbie Downers out there, don't we? I think women already know who those Debbie Downers are, because they're Debbie Downer, not just about your relationship, but about your career and about everything, all of the different aspects. So I think you know who they are. Yeah, I think the other sign is, how does she feel about her husband if she's married, right? Women who are complaining and griping and everything about their husband are probably not in a great position to affirm you in your marriage. You need to find a positive community of women who are looking to love their man, not looking to put him down and criticize him. That's why I started a private Facebook group for women like that. Women can come together and we can support one another in loving our husbands more and more and looking for the good rather than the bad.
And that support is essential. Then we get into the aspect of the skills necessary to help a relationship be good. They say that instead of trying to find the perfect match for yourself, we become the perfect person that can match with anyone. Looking at that aspect of it, where we did the work, where we became the best person we could become, we got the help, we got the mentorship, we got the coaching, and we have elevated ourselves. So we're looking for someone who's going to complement that, not someone who is necessarily perfect by all means, like, oh, they're this 6 feet tall, six pack abs, six-figure income, the popular things, right? But more so of, I did the work to become a really great person, and I would like to spend my life with a really great person also. What's your take on that?
Oh, I love that. I mean, it sounds ideal, right? And most things in life are not ideal. Life is difficult. Life is messy. People are messy. I think we should be realistic. I think that we should understand that I am a flawed human and I'm married to a flawed human. And so I need to love and accept him as he is, not what I hope he's going to grow into. You know, I spent a lot of years trying to make changes in my husband, trying to motivate him to do this or to that. One of the things that was big on my list was I wanted him to be healthier. I wanted him to lose weight and exercise and eat healthy and all the things, right? And the more I talked about that and the more I tried to be motivational, the less and less effective that was. But when I decided to relinquish control of his health and understand that that belongs on his paper, it's not on my paper, and I should leave it to him, that man dropped 50 pounds. I just want you to know. Yes, he did. Because you know what, Michael? We don't want to be controlled by other people. We don't want to be convinced and coerced and manipulated, but we like to do it to other people. So I have to let that go. And the same thing for my kids. My kids are teens and adults now. I need to relinquish inappropriate control and let them run their life and let them make decisions.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly said. And I love the aspect of what's on their paper. This is not on what's my paper. And I love the aspect of having a private Facebook group where women can come together, support each other, because there are going to be a lot of Debbie Downers, as you said, on social media. You can post something on Twitter, for example, and everyone from left and right, they're going to attack you. Oh, you love your husband, you love your wife, you're this type of person. And we are living in a very stereotypical life right now where you fall under one umbrella. And you get to choose what type of life you want for yourself and for your marriage and your relationships. And many people, they will throw something away, as we said early on, instead of fixing it. And the work that you do is a circumference of everything that needs to be wrapped to make a relationship sturdy and strong, where we look at what type of skills we need, the intimacy skills that we talked about before we got on. We said one today. But I wanted to leave a little bit for the audience to do some investigative research. I love for them to check out social media websites, to learn more about the coaches, because then they can become inquisitive, ask the questions, and then reach out to the coach that is on. Because when we just talk about relationships, oh, that's nice and everything, but we need more action. We need action in our relationships. And my call to action is going to be your call to action. I want you to leave us a message right now to get people to take action toward a better and stronger and happier relationship. And then at the end of that message, tell the audience where they can find you.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I believe that you are the expert on your relationship. You being you, the woman I'm talking to, they're the expert, right? And they know what they want, and they know how to best shape and use these skills within the relationship that they have. And as long as they're calling me, I'm going to stand for their marriage, and I'm going to continue to work with them and teach them the skills and the ways to make it the best that it can be. Because I know for myself, when I started implementing the skills and I started showing up differently to my husband, he began to respond to me differently. So when I show up as my best, there's a mirror there, right? And so he mirrors that back to me. When I'm kind to you, it makes you want to be kind to me. But if I was grouchy and grumpy and short, I bet the video or this interview wouldn't last very long, right? So I need to show up as my best self. And in order to do that, I need to take care of myself, like we talked about with the self-care. The first thing I usually ask women to do, they're welcome to reach out to me. I'll do a free call anytime and just kind of assess the relationship. But the best way to get started is through a 4-week workshop that I offer. It's called The Empowered Wife. It lasts 4 weeks and it happens live on Zoom. And immediately on that first night, I'm going to give you some skills and I'm going to give you some cheat phrases that you can use right away that night and start to see results. But during those 4 weeks, I'm going to teach all 6 intimacy skills so that the ladies can begin to implement them. And it's going to be in that small group setting where we can share our wins and how things are going. After the workshop, then we can move into one-on-one individual coaching, because we know that if we don't use it, we lose it, right? So we're trying to form new habits. We've been doing it the same way for a long time, and it hasn't gotten us where we wanted to get. We want to start shifting some of those behaviors and creating new and more positive and more pleasant habits that actually connect us to our spouse rather than divide us. Your listeners can find me at relationshipswithamap.org, and they can get a freebie there about 5 mistakes wives make when they're trying to repair their relationship.
Perfect. And I will make it easy for everyone. All the links are going to be in the description box below. And I encourage everyone to share all of the links with any individual who's in a marriage, good or bad, anyone who's flourishing, beginning their teenage years or young adult years, because this is going to be the essential foundation. Education, our school systems are not going to teach us about our relationships. They're not going to teach us about good marriages. The only thing we know about our relationships is what we see around us, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But the conversation that we had today, Cristie, is one of hope. It's one of prosperity. And it's going to be one that's going to empower so many women and so many wives to begin to learn about their marriage and to begin to be happy once more if they have gave themselves away to the world and they have forgoed self-care. Loved every bit of it. Thank you so much for being a wonderful guest, and keep doing your wonderful work. All right, everyone. I'd like to thank you so much for watching that interview of my guest, Cristie. As you can see, a wonderful personality. I love her. She is a breath of fresh air. And I do have to say something, because when it comes to relationship coaching, it could be hit or miss depending on the person. I have interviewed quite a bit of relationship coaches. Maybe one out of all the interviews I did were maybe good, right? It's like, okay, this is good. This person knows what they're talking about, versus a relationship coach that is operating purely on emotion. Now, of course, there's emotion, there's vigor, there's aspirations in Cristie's words, but it's not swayed by what society's telling you to do. Throw it out if it's not working. I talk about this quite often on my social medias and how marriage has evolved, because marriage used to be an institution for forever growth. Now it's an institution for momentary pleasure. We are in it until it is bad. There are going to be bumps along the way, whether you like it or not. And I speak to so many married individuals, and they always tell me these little tips and tricks and stuff like that. And the tricks are not so much of, you need to do this when your wife is mad or something like that. We learn to love our partner. We have to learn our ladies. We have to learn our men, wherever you are. Because most people, when it comes to having a successful marriage or successful relationship, is going to come down to your level of understanding of what you want today, what you want tomorrow, and what you're willing to do for it. Because most people are going to say, well, it's broke, throw it out. That's an option, right? There's always an option. To me, that's the easiest option. But when you can begin to repair something, you learn to respect it a lot more than what you are currently. Because if I had something broken, maybe it's a relationship. My relationship is broken, right? I'm going to say, you know what? I can just get a new relationship and everything is going to be brand new. Think of it as a car. My car is breaking down. It's an old model. It's a 2001 Kia Spectra or Elantra or whatever the Kia is. I don't even know. But what I can tell you is that I can take my car to the repair shop, or I can say, I'm going to go get a new Kia. I'm going to go get this new Kia 2024. Got all the bells and the whistles. It has CarPlay. It could drive itself. I mean, this sounds like a good deal. But when we trade in our old model, our old hunk of metal, what do we get? We get more technology that might lead to learning curves. We lead to a new mindset that eventually wears off, because when it's new and shiny, it feels good. The endorphin rush, right? We're in that honeymoon phase, but eventually that fades away and we're left with another piece of metal. It might not be an old piece of metal, but it's still a piece of metal. The issue with relationships are we fail to understand that there are going to be moments in the relationships as we progress. Are we in a moment where this is going to be the good part of life, or it's going to be the moment where we are tested? Oftentimes, when you get tested, it doesn't feel good. You don't feel certain. You don't feel happy. You don't feel handsome or pretty or respected or loved. There are so many emotions that can be going on and ideas that can be going on in your mindset. What do we do about it? We need people to look at our blind spots. That's the first step. We cannot simply say, well, the marriage is broken. I'm going to just automatically throw it away. This is not working. I tried this. I tried counseling. I tried therapy. Maybe you tried it all. But did you try understanding? Because sometimes we look at our partner, we look at our spouse, and we say, you know what? You're the problem. The reason I'm not happy is because of you. The reason why I'm doing these things is because of you. And in a sense, we might mirror certain things. We become reflective. And it's going to take an individual that listens to the podcast, that's into self-help and personal development, to say, if I could begin to make the change, I can influence the change. Now, you can't force change on someone, but if you become a role model, naturally, people see it. People are going to start to become aware of what's happening. It might not be immediately, but there's going to be the aspect of we can grow because one person understood that two negative people bickering is not going to create harmony. It could happen. It's very positive. They say two negatives make a positive. But in a relationship, we are going to need two individuals that are positive, that are uplifted, whether it be spiritual belief, family foundations, whatever aspect you give yourself for growth, we need some type of guidance. We need some type of direction. And right now, there's not much direction when it comes to relationships. And the work that I do, helping people with mindsets and limiting beliefs, is only one part of it. We have to understand that at some point, we need to work together. Maybe with a loved one. Maybe that leads to marriage. Maybe that leads to something even greater than the aspect of an institutionalized marriage where you feel like, if I get divorced, they take half of my stuff, for men at least. And then for women, they might feel like they're trapped and they can't escape. These are just mindsets that we think about. They don't necessarily have to be mindsets that we live and they become our direction in life. We get to choose what type of life we want. And most people, they want happiness, right? They want growth. They want to be loved. And they want to be respected. To find the right person, that could be challenging. But if you are in those relationships right now, this is where Cristie specializes. if you are married, right? Let's keep you married. Let's make sure that everything that is going on in your life right now is pristine. Because if there's something that can be fixed, why not fix it? And then there's going to be the aspect that she helps people understand the skills that they need to be in a healthy relationship. This aspect is going to be for individuals who are trying to get into a good, strong relationship. Because once you get into the relationship, that might be the easy part. But then staying in the relationship, being happy in the relationship, doing everything that you need to do in the relationship, that could be the most daunting. And I have found in order for an individual to continue to progress in their life, they need to have some type of guidance. This is why coaching is so big today. It's not because, coaching is just the latest trend. What's starting to happen is most people are leaving the American dream of education behind because it has become institutionalized, where kids are not falling in love with education as they used to. They might see it as a means to an end, and they get their degree, they get the piece of paper, and they say, now that I have this piece of paper, I can finally work as a doctor, as a lawyer, as a professional, whatever that be. However, most people, especially the younger generations, they're looking for that freedom. They're looking for that aspect of, if not education, then what? And this is where they need individuals, they need coaches, they need mentors, they need groups like Cristie is that are going to be there of supportive women that are going to be helping each other grow. Because we have had generations of women tell their daughters that, hey, be independent, don't need a man. And this is going to be an aspect to many people's life today. But yet we are seeing the shift now. That generation or that advice is starting to fade away. And now they're starting to see, well, if a relationship is not all bad, everything that I have been told or taught has to be re-examined. And from there, I get to make my choice. And that should be what you're looking at. What do you need today? What type of life would you like to live? They say that if you want to go alone, you can go alone. It's just going to take a lot longer. But if you go together with a group of individuals, if you go with a partner or spouse, this right here is going to help elevate you a lot sooner than later. You can build your empire alone, but it takes a lot longer. But if you were building together, building a family, building a structure, your priorities change, but then also your purpose and your why and your drive and your momentum change for the better. You begin to flourish so much more readily and so much more quickly. This is where relationships shine. Many people see the negatives to relationships, the 7-year itch, the humps, the moments that are unfavorable. We all are going to have them, but we get through them. Those moments, they actually make the relationship stronger. Those moments of testing the relationship. There's going to be financial problems. Maybe there's going to be respect and love problems. There could be even all the way to infidelity problems. There can be a lot of issues in a marriage. And just because you have issues, it doesn't mean you made the wrong selection. It doesn't mean that you are a bad person. It just means you need a little bit of guidance. And Cristie is going to be that guide for many individuals, many women who are trying to figure out what they need, what skills they need in order to get back to where they need to be so they can flourish in life again, so they can have a marriage that flourishes and that they can have a life full of abundance. Because in a sense, we all want to be loved and respected, but yet we do have to learn how to love once more, and we have to learn how to respect once again. So this is a two-way street, as I was saying. I don't know if I said a one-way or two-way earlier. Who knows? But what I can say is we're trying to figure out what is going to be the best option for us. And the best option is going to be speaking with someone who has did it 30 years. Cristie has been married. 30 years of success. 30 years of trials. 30 years of growth and happy moments. All of those are going to be mixed together, and they make someone who's truly delighted to help other individuals have the same feeling. When you give yourself an aspiration of marriage and longevity, you're going to see that your life is going to be so much fuller. I know some people, they like to wait to have kids, but let me tell you, you can wait to have kids, but your kids bring about so much more meaning in your life. It's like whenever I see my son, it's just like joy takes over my body. It's just like, whoa, like look at this little human. So delighted. However, I understand when they become teens and they become Sour Patches, I'm still going to like them because Sour Patches, they're sour than sweet. So in a sense, life is like that. We can have those sour moments. We can have those sweet moments. But let's not relish on the moments that are always sour. Let's focus and give our mindset a shift to focus on the sweet moments, the moments that we can create. And let's begin to do the work today to make sure that our marriage is going to be the best marriage that we can have, that we can work toward, and that we can live. And it begins by taking action. All the links are going to be in the description box below. Reach out to Cristie, inquire about her Facebook group, inquire about her 4-week program. This right here is going to be the onset of creating longevity once more in our relationships and in our marriage. It doesn't have to be until you don't feel like doing your part. It can be, once again, until death do your part. There is an aspect that marriage can bring about the greatest joys in your life. Make sure you have the strongest relationship possible, whether you're beginning or if you are in it already and you're just trying to figure out how can you enhance your situation. Again, Cristie is going to be a great asset in your corner. I cannot recommend her enough. My name is Michael Rearden. I'm a mindset coach. If you have any questions, email me coachinginsession@gmail.com. And I will see everyone on the next episode of Coaching in Session. Until then, everyone take care.